So today's video is extremely serious, so I just want you guys, before we start this, to remember that this story is about a human being, and to please remain as respectful as possible in the comment section. Anyone that's not being respectful, your comment's going to get deleted. Alright guys, so I'm sure many of you in the electric unicycle community have already heard about this story, but for those of you who haven't, last week in Hawaii, we had a man riding an electric unicycle who was struck by a car and unfortunately lost his life. You know, it's a really sobering thought to think that being out on your unicycle, having a good time, hanging out with your buddies, riding solo, whatever it is, to imagine that ending in such a terrible way. It's really, really humbling. You know, and I thought long and hard about making this video. It's such a touchy subject. It's something that has to be handled with absolute respect. And the main reason I ended up deciding on making this video is because the family did put together a GoFundMe account. I'm going to put the link in the description below. Whether or not you knew Joel, or if you ride unicycles, if you're a part of the community or not, it really doesn't matter. If you can find in your heart to help the family out, to cover some funeral costs, it would be really appreciated by everyone in the unicycle community. From everything I've heard, Joel was a very safe, conscious rider. He was from the New York area. So if you're part of the electric unicycle community, if you're from New York, if you're just feeling giving in this wonderful holiday season, please find it in your hearts to donate to the funeral costs, to the family. It's never gonna make up for what happened, but if we can just help his family get through this time a little bit easier, I think it would be a really great token of appreciation from the entire community. So there's the first thing I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to get the awareness for the GoFundMe out there so that people know what's happening, people know what's going on, and hopefully we can help his family through this time. But I also wanted to talk about some of the circumstances that led up to this incident, and just things that hopefully everyone can think about, can learn from, and maybe we can avoid another tragedy happening. So there were really a lot of contributing factors that went into this incident. First and foremost, he was on vacation in Hawaii. I guess Joel is from New York. He rides in the New York area all the time. From what I've been told, he was a very cautious rider. He's not one of these guys who's out ripping highways or doing 50 miles an hour or whatever. Like, I've been told he was a very respectful rider. But he's not from Hawaii. He's from New York. So he's completely unfamiliar with his surroundings. He's completely unfamiliar with the roads that he was on. And as a result, it's very easy to get lost and wind up in a dangerous situation if you're riding in a place that you're unfamiliar with. You don't know how the locals ride on those roads. You don't know how the traffic flow is. You don't know when the busy times for traffic are. And apparently the way that the roads are set up in Hawaii, it's really easy, from what I've been told, to accidentally get put on a freeway. You know, you could be riding in the back roads, and next thing you know, you're on an on-ramp and you're going down a really, really busy, dangerous road. So that's kind of the first thing I just wanted to talk about, is planning out rides. When you're riding, especially in an unfamiliar area, it's really important to map out the exact route you're going to be taking and kind of visualizing what that's going to look like. If you can use tools such as Google Maps with the road view to actually kind of get a feel for what kind of road you're going to be riding on when you plan out your route, that could be life-saving. You know, having a planned route and a planned destination is definitely something that you should be considering every time you go out on a ride, just from a safety perspective, so that someone can know where you're going is kind of a big deal, as well as how you're getting there. All right, and the second thing I wanted to talk about with this specific incident is the fact that Joel was riding an electric unicycle that he wasn't necessarily familiar with. I'm not sure exactly what model of machine he was on, but I do know that it was lent to him. It wasn't his wheel. And I think it's probably safe to assume it's probably not the same model of wheel that he's used to riding. There's just so many models out there that the chances of him borrowing something that are exactly what he rides at home are probably pretty low. And this is something we've kind of talked about before in other videos. When getting a new wheel, a wheel that's new to you, you really need to put some miles on that wheel before you start taking that into high speed and live road situations. You know, just hopping on a new wheel and zipping up and down the road real quick gives you kind of a feel for what that wheel is like, but it really doesn't prepare your muscles and your muscle memory for the different situations that you're going to actually run into with that wheel. You know, every wheel is unique. They all have different weight distributions. They all have different pedal heights. They all have different tire sizes, tire widths, tires. They all have different pedals. They have different lighting. They have just so many different firmwares. I mean, there's just so many differences with wheels that when you're talking about pushing wheels to their max speed, like you're talking 30, 40 miles an hour, if you're talking about bringing a wheel out into live traffic with automobiles, you really need to know that wheel in and out for you, your body, your muscle memory. You really need to have a relationship with that wheel that goes far beyond just, I've ridden unicycles before, I should be fine. You know, it's really important that when you get a new wheel, you don't try to take that thing out of the box and try and hit top speeds on it. It's just not safe, guys. You know, when you get a new unicycle, you really, really need to be patient, take your time, learn the machine, respect the machine, and over time, while riding, putting some miles on it, you're gonna develop new muscle memory. You're gonna learn little intricacies of the wheel, you know, how it feels when you hit a bump, how it feels when you take a turn, how it feels when you get a speed wobble. These are all different things that you're going to have to encounter on every individual model of unicycle. So I just think it's really important, something that we talk about safety-wise for riding your unicycles, for riding other people's unicycles. Getting familiarity with that model of wheel, it's very important. Okay, and that brings us to the next thing I wanted to talk about, and that is your nighttime visibility. Apparently this incident happened at night. And obviously when riding at night, it can be really hard to be seen, to be visible as an electric unicycle rider. I mean, many of these units are extremely lackluster in the amount of lighting they provide. Between both the tail light, the headlight, the side lighting, it's all very mediocre. And then you consider the fact that it's so low to the ground, it's really hard for a driver of a vehicle to be able to see you if you're really relying on the lights from the unicycle. You know, and we've talked about this before in some of my other videos, talking about how to set up maybe an LED light on your backpack, how to get a safety vest, wearing things that are going to make you stand out and light up vibrantly at nighttime. If that's the kind of riding you're going to do, being visible to people in vehicles is the #1 safety priority. You know, we all talk about wearing protective equipment, the PPE you need to ride an electric unicycle. Well, if you're riding in darkness, lights are the most essential piece of PPE gear that I would urge you to purchase. Proper lighting and being visible to everyone on the road and around you, it's the #1 thing to keep you safe. And of course, talking about the PPE subject, that brings us to our last thing is please, 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 whenever you're riding these unicycles, gear up. Helmet, some kind of wrist padding, knee pads, you know, jeans at least, some kind of a jacket. Wear things that are going to help protect you in the case of an accident. If you've been riding these unicycles for a long time, you know it's not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. And if you are not prepared for when you fall, bad things can happen. You know, bad things can still happen even if you're fully geared up. So please, just gear up to help mitigate as many bad situations as we possibly can. Okay, and once again, the link to the GoFundMe page is down in the description below. I urge you to support this unicycle rider, to support everyone in our community. It's really important that we all come together and acknowledge the fact that this could have been literally anyone. Alright guys, so I think that's going to be pretty much it for this video. Like I said, I just wanted to touch on some safety issues that hopefully everyone can learn from, everyone can take from this incident. You know, like I said earlier, please be as respectful as possible whenever talking about this or other situations like this. I know we've seen some controversial comments in some of the other social media forums around the internet, but let's not get into any of that. I want to keep this as respectful as possible. Hopefully I did a good job staying respectful to Joel and his family and to the incident at hand. If you guys think I could have done anything differently or better, please let me know in the comments down below. And until next time, guys, ride safe. See you soon.